Beloved, your soulmate refused to leave the hospital. Their mother was stable. The doctors had already said the immediate danger had passed. Family members were telling your soulmate, "Go home. Get some sleep. We'll call if anything changes." But your soulmate would not move. Because only minutes earlier, something had happened inside that hospital room that had nothing to do with the medical emergency itself. Their mother had accidentally revealed a secret. A secret connected directly to you, and once your soulmate understood what she had done years ago, they sat beside the hospital bed and said, "I'm not leaving until you promise me one thing." Their mother looked exhausted. "What?" Your soulmate leaned closer. Their voice was shaking. "When you get out of here, you are going to tell them the truth yourself." Silence. Their mother looked away. Your soulmate continued, "You are going to look them in the eye and tell them what you did." Beloved, their mother began crying. Because she knew exactly who your soulmate meant. You. And for the first time, your soulmate had discovered that one of the most painful misunderstandings between you had not happened the way they believed. There was something you had tried to tell them years ago. Something important. Something written in your own handwriting. And beloved, their mother made sure your soulmate never received it. Let me take you back. There was a period in your relationship when things were becoming serious. Perhaps not officially engaged. Not married. Maybe you had not even reached the stage where everything was publicly defined. But emotionally, you were deeply connected. Your soulmate knew it. You knew it. And their mother knew it too. Perhaps that was exactly what frightened her. At first, she may have liked you. Polite conversations. Small smiles. Nothing openly hostile. But as your relationship deepened, she began noticing changes in your soulmate. They started making decisions differently. Perhaps asking questions about family expectations they had accepted their entire life. Maybe they wanted to move. Change work. Travel. Live independently. Or simply make choices without explaining them to everyone first. Their mother interpreted these changes through fear. This person is changing my child. Beloved, perhaps you were not changing them at all. Maybe your soulmate had simply reached a point where love made them question a life they had built mostly around keeping other people comfortable. But fear rarely begins with nuance. Their mother began watching you differently. Perhaps one evening she asked your soulmate, "Are you serious about them?" Your soulmate hesitated. That hesitation had nothing to do with you. They were afraid of her reaction. Their mother noticed. "You are." Your soulmate said, "I care about them." She replied, "That wasn't my question." Beloved, perhaps your soulmate became defensive. "Why does it matter?" Their mother answered, "Because I know what happens when you become attached." Maybe she had watched your soulmate suffer before. A painful breakup. Betrayal. Maybe somebody had once used their kindness. Their mother had promised herself, never again. She would protect them. Beloved, Protectiveness can begin as love and slowly become control if nobody notices where the line moved. Your soulmate told her, "They're not like that." Their mother responded, "You don't know that yet. Maybe, you always think you know." Your soulmate became angry. Stop. But the seed had been planted. Perhaps this is where you began feeling a change too. Your soulmate became less open after family visits. Maybe conversations about the future suddenly became difficult. Perhaps you asked, "Did something happen?" "No, did your mother say something?" Your soulmate's face changed. That told you enough. Beloved, perhaps you said, "I don't want to fight with your family." Your soulmate responded, "You're not." But you could feel yourself becoming an invisible subject inside conversations you were not invited into. That is an uncomfortable place to love someone from. Weeks passed. Then perhaps you and your soulmate had a serious disagreement. Not a breakup yet. But one of those conversations where both people realize something must change. You said, "I can handle your family not understanding me." Pause. I cannot handle you becoming a different person every time they don't. Beloved. Your soulmate became defensive. That's not fair. Perhaps, they're my family. You responded, "I'm not asking you to stop loving them." Then, "I'm asking you to stop making me pay for every fear they have." Your soulmate went quiet. Maybe you could see the conflict on their face. Love for you. Loyalty to family. Fear of disappointing everyone. You wanted your soulmate to choose for themselves. They interpreted your request as pressure to choose sides. Beloved, those are not the same thing. The conversation ended badly. Perhaps you went home crying. Your soulmate did too. And then you made a decision. You were tired of important conversations being reduced to, "Your family versus me." So instead of sending another emotional text, you wrote something. A physical letter. Beloved, not a romantic love letter. Something much more important. You wanted to explain yourself without being interrupted. Perhaps the first line said, "I am not asking you to choose me over your mother." Then, "I am asking you to choose your own life, even if the life you choose does not include me." Beloved. Maybe you wrote for several pages. You explained that you loved them. That you could see a future. That you were willing to work through practical difficulties. But you could not remain indefinitely inside a relationship where outsiders determined when your soulmate felt safe loving you. Perhaps you wrote, "If you decide I am not your person, tell me and I will respect it." Then, but please let that decision be yours. Beloved, perhaps the next line was the one that could have changed everything. If your real answer is that you want this relationship, I am still here. You folded the letter. Maybe you did not trust text. Perhaps there had been too many screenshots. Too many messages interpreted without tone. So you wanted them to hold something physical. You went to your soulmate's home. They were not there. Perhaps at work. Maybe with family. Their mother answered. Beloved, imagine the tension. She looked at you. You looked at her. Perhaps you considered leaving. Then said, "Can you give this to them?" She saw the envelope. Your soulmate's name. What is it? Something they need to read. Their mother hesitated. Perhaps, are you two fighting? You answered, that's between us. Beloved, good boundary. You handed her the letter. And before leaving, you said, please make sure they get it. She promised. I will. Beloved, she did not. That is the secret. At first, perhaps she truly intended to. She placed the envelope somewhere. Then curiosity took over. Maybe the envelope had not been sealed completely. Perhaps she convinced herself, if this person is about to manipulate my child, I need to know. Wrong. But that was her justification. She opened it. She read. And beloved, what she found surprised her. You were not threatening. You were not saying, choose me or them. You were saying, choose honestly. That should have softened her. Instead, it frightened her more. Because now she realized how serious you were. You could see marriage. A real future. And perhaps the letter included something like, I would rather lose you through an honest decision than keep you because you are too afraid to tell me what you want. Beloved. Their mother understood what that meant. The next decision was coming. Your soulmate could choose you. And perhaps choosing you would change family dynamics permanently. So she made a terrible choice. She hid the letter. Maybe inside a drawer. A box. Somewhere she thought nobody would ever find it. Then when your soulmate came home, they asked, did anyone come by? Their mother looked directly at them. And said, no, beloved. That single word changed years. Meanwhile, you waited. Perhaps the next day. No response. 2 days. Nothing. You thought, maybe they need time. A week. Your soulmate behaved normally distant. No acknowledgement of the letter. Eventually you interpreted the silence. They read it. They made their decision. And they chose not to answer. Beloved, perhaps that was devastating. You had made yourself completely vulnerable. You had said, I am still here if you actually want this. And what came back? Nothing. So you began stepping away. Your soulmate noticed. But beloved, they had no idea why. Perhaps they messaged, you've been quiet. You read the words and could not believe it. Quiet? They were acting as though you had never sent anything. Maybe you thought they were trying to avoid the subject. You responded, I think I said everything I needed to say. Your soulmate stared at that message. Confused. What did they say? Perhaps they assumed you meant the argument. Your soulmate replied, okay. Beloved. That okay may have broken your heart. You thought, they read the letter and said okay. Your soulmate thought, You've made some private decision and don't want to talk. One hidden envelope. Two completely different realities. Perhaps days later your soulmate's mother noticed the distance. She knew. Maybe guilt appeared. Perhaps she almost returned the letter. But now? Too much time had passed. If she gave it to your soulmate, she would have to admit, I opened it. I hid it. I lied. Beloved, fear works like that. One bad decision creates a second decision designed to protect the first. Then a third. Eventually the truth seems more destructive than the original mistake. So she stayed silent. Your relationship continued falling apart. Maybe your soulmate became angry at you. They thought, why did they suddenly stop trying? Perhaps they complained to their mother. I don't understand them. Their mother perhaps said, maybe this is for the best. Beloved, imagine the guilt. She knew you had not simply stopped trying. You had literally delivered one last attempt into her hands. And she buried it. Perhaps your soulmate said, I thought they loved me. Their mother responded, sometimes love isn't enough. Beloved. That sentence came from someone holding evidence that you had been asking for a real future. Eventually, you and your soulmate ended. Maybe not with one clean conversation. Perhaps it simply died through misunderstanding. You believed, I told them everything. They chose silence, ****. Your soulmate believed, they stopped fighting for us and never explained why. Beloved, both of you carried a wound created partly by a conversation that never reached its destination. Years passed. The letter remained hidden. Maybe their mother moved it. Could not throw it away. Why? Perhaps guilt. Perhaps some part of her knew destroying it would make the betrayal even more permanent. So she kept it. In a box. Inside a book. Maybe tucked behind documents. And life continued. Your soulmate may have dated. Perhaps tried to move on. But there was one thing they never understood. Your ending had seemed too sudden. They would replay it. You said, I already told you what I wanted. When? Your soulmate wondered. Perhaps they assumed there was some conversation they had misunderstood. Maybe your soulmate blamed themselves. Maybe you blamed them. Neither had the whole picture. Then came the hospital. Beloved, perhaps their mother suffered a serious but survivable medical event. Maybe surgery. Perhaps an emergency that frightened everyone. Your soulmate rushed to the hospital. Whatever resentment existed between them and their mother disappeared temporarily beneath fear. They sat beside her. Held her hand. Waited through tests. Doctors. Hours. Eventually, the situation stabilized. Everyone exhaled. And perhaps mortality loosened something inside their mother. When people become frightened by how quickly life can change, secrets can suddenly feel heavier. Maybe late at night, when only your soulmate was in the room, their mother said, "There's something I need to tell you." Your soulmate thought it was medical. What? She became emotional. About them. Beloved, your soulmate froze. Your name had not been spoken between them for a long time. About who? Their mother looked at them. You. Your soulmate's heart started pounding. What about them? The mother said, they came to the house once. Your soulmate frowned. When? She gave the approximate date. Beloved, your soulmate immediately remembered. That was right before everything collapsed. What did they want? Their mother began crying. They had something for you. Your soulmate sat forward. What? A letter. Silence. Beloved, perhaps the hospital machines suddenly sounded louder. Your soulmate stared. What letter? The mother could barely look at them. They asked me to give it to you. Pause. I didn't. Beloved. Your soulmate's expression changed completely. What? Their mother repeated, I didn't give it to you. Perhaps your soulmate thought medication was confusing her. What are you talking about? She explained. The envelope. Your name. The promise. Beloved, your soulmate stood up. You had a letter from them? Yes. And you never gave it to me? Tears. No, why? Their mother said the worst possible thing, I thought I was protecting you. Beloved. Your soulmate perhaps walked away from the bed. Angry. Shaking. From what? I was afraid. No, please, from what? The mother confessed. She had opened it. Read it. Realized how serious you were. And feared losing influence over her child. Beloved, perhaps your soulmate looked at their mother as though seeing her differently for the first time. You read my letter? I know it was wrong. It wasn't yours. I know. No, you don't. Beloved, the anger pours out. Years. Questions. Maybe other relationships. Perhaps your soulmate spent years believing you had simply walked away. Now they discover you had sent something. Something important enough that their mother had been afraid to deliver it. Your soulmate asks, where is it? Silence. Where is the letter? Their mother says, I still have it. Beloved. That almost hurts more. She kept it. Your soulmate asks, here? No, at home? Yes. Where? She tells them. A box. Maybe inside a drawer no one used. Your soulmate pulls out their phone. Calls a sibling. Go to mom's house. The sibling is confused. What? Go now. Beloved, perhaps your soulmate gives instructions. Find the box. Open it. There is an envelope. Their name. Maybe your handwriting. Send a picture. Minutes pass. Then their phone vibrates. A photograph. Beloved, your handwriting. The date. The envelope. Real. Your soulmate sits down. Perhaps tears begin. They ask their sibling, "Open it." The sibling hesitates. It's addressed to you. Open it and photograph every page. Beloved, perhaps the pages arrive one by one. Your soulmate reads inside the hospital room while their mother watches. The first line, "I am not asking you to choose me over your family." Your soulmate's face crumples. Because beloved, perhaps for years they had told themselves that was exactly what you demanded. Then, "I am asking you to make your own decision about us." Another page. If the answer is no, tell me. I will leave with dignity. Then, but if the real answer is yes, stop letting fear make you behave as though it is no. Beloved, your soulmate starts crying. Perhaps their mother does too. Then comes the sentence that completely destroys your soulmate, "I am still here." Beloved, you were still there. At the exact moment your soulmate believed you were beginning to abandon them, you had written, "I am still here." Then, "I still want this." Perhaps, "I still believe there is a future here if both of us are willing to participate in it." Beloved, your soulmate puts the phone down. Maybe cannot continue. Because perhaps shortly after that letter, you became quiet. And your soulmate became angry. If they had received it, they might have known why you were quiet. You were waiting for an answer. Perhaps your soulmate whispers, "They thought I ignored this." Their mother says nothing. "They thought I read this and ignored them." Beloved. Their mother begins sobbing. "I'm sorry." Your soulmate stands. Perhaps, you let them think that. I didn't think, exactly. Beloved. Maybe your soulmate walks toward the door. Family tells them, "Don't do this now." Your mother just went through something serious. But your soulmate stops. Looks back. And says, "No. We are doing this now because later is how this happened." Beloved. Powerful. Their mother looks at them. Your soulmate sits back down. Not because they are no longer angry. Because one thing must be settled before they leave. They say, "Promise me something." Their mother whispers, "What?" Your soulmate says, "When you are discharged and strong enough, you are going to tell them yourself." The mother becomes frightened. No, beloved, your soulmate's expression hardens. Yes. What good would that do now? There it is. The sentence people use when truth becomes inconvenient. What good would it do? Your soulmate answers, it gives them their own history back. Beloved. Maybe their mother says, "They'll hate me." Your soulmate responds, "That is their decision." Perhaps, "I'm sorry." That is not the promise. Silence. Your soulmate continues, "You are going to tell them that they gave you the letter. That you read it. That you hid it. That I never saw it. And you are not going to ask them to forgive you." Beloved. Their mother looks devastated. Your soulmate says, "You apologize." Then you let them decide what it means. Perhaps she says, what if they never speak to you again after this? Beloved, your soulmate's eyes fill. Then at least they'll stop believing I chose silence after reading their heart. There. That is why they refuse to leave. Not because they could force the past to change. Because they would not allow another night to pass with the truth still buried. Their mother whispers, I promise. Your soulmate asks, promise what? Beloved, no vague promise. She says, I promise I will tell them myself. Your soulmate waits. Then, and? The mother knows. And I will never interfere in your relationship with them again. Beloved. Perhaps your soulmate corrects her. Not just them. She looks confused. Your soulmate says, never do this to anyone I love again. Because beloved, growth is bigger than getting you back. The boundary has to remain even if you never return. Their mother nods. I promise. Only then, your soulmate stands. Perhaps kisses her forehead. Says, I love you. Beloved, important. Accountability does not require hatred. Your soulmate can love their mother deeply and still hold her responsible. Then, I'm going home. But beloved, your soulmate does not immediately contact you. Perhaps they want to. Their entire body is screaming, tell them. Send the letter. Explain. But they realize something. This revelation could become another form of pressure if delivered badly. Imagine receiving, my mother hid your letter, so everything was a misunderstanding, come back. No. The relationship had other problems too. Your soulmate still had fear. They still failed to communicate in many moments. The hidden letter explains a major misunderstanding. It does not erase every decision. So they wait until morning. Perhaps they read the letter again. Slowly. This time not only searching for evidence you loved them. They read the criticism too. You had written, I cannot keep carrying certainty for both of us. Beloved. Your soulmate understands. You were exhausted. Another line, every time somebody around you gets scared, you make me prove the relationship again. Another, I want to be loved as a partner, not evaluated like a risk. Beloved. Your soulmate sees their own responsibility. Even if their mother had delivered the letter, would they have been ready? Maybe. Maybe not. They cannot romanticize an alternate timeline. Perhaps they might have chosen you. Perhaps fear would still have won. Nobody knows. So your soulmate makes a rule for themselves, I will not use what my mother did to escape what I did, beloved, good. The next day, perhaps their mother is still in hospital. Stable. Resting. Your soulmate visits. Maybe the anger has cooled slightly. Their mother says, I'm sorry. Your soulmate replies, I know. Then, but I need you to understand something. What? You weren't the only reason we ended. Beloved. Their mother looks surprised. Your soulmate continues, I was afraid too. I let your opinion matter too much. I avoided questions. I expected them to remain patient while I kept delaying. Then, what you did made it worse. But I still made my choices. Beloved. That matters. Perhaps the mother cries, I raised you to listen to me. Your soulmate answers, you raised me. Pause. But I'm an adult. There. Perhaps this hospital crisis creates a different relationship between them. Not estrangement necessarily. Boundaries. Love without control. Your soulmate tells their mother, if I ever reconnect with them, you do not contact them unless they choose to speak with you. The mother nods. And you don't call other family members asking them to intervene. Another nod. If you're worried, tell me. Beloved. That is healthy. Perhaps days later, their mother is discharged. She keeps her promise. But first, your soulmate contacts you. A simple message. Not dramatic. I learned something about our past that you have a right to know. Beloved, perhaps your stomach tightens. You have heard sentences like this before. Maybe you do not answer immediately. Then your soulmate sends, it's about the letter you left for me. Beloved, you freeze. What? How do they know? Perhaps your fingers shake slightly. You type, what letter? Not because you forgot. Because perhaps you cannot believe they are speaking about it after all these years. Your soulmate responds, the one you gave my mother. Silence. Maybe you stare. Then, you read it? Beloved, your soulmate's heart breaks. Because your first assumption is still, they had it. They ignored it. Your soulmate types, no, then, I only saw it for the first time this week. Beloved. Perhaps you stand up. Walk. Sit down again. What? Your soulmate says, she never gave it to me. Maybe you immediately think, no. Impossible. You say, I handed it to her myself. I know. She promised. I know. Then, she admitted she hid it. Beloved, there may be no immediate response. Because years of interpretation start rearranging themselves. Perhaps you remember the week afterward. Your soulmate acting like nothing happened. You thought it was cruelty. Maybe it was ignorance. You say, you didn't know? No, not at all. No, beloved, perhaps you become angry. Not necessarily relieved. Because what happened to you was still real. You waited. Felt rejected. Changed your life based on what you believed their silence meant. Your soulmate says, I'm sorry. Perhaps you respond, you didn't do this. Then your soulmate says something important, not this part. Beloved. No easy innocence. They continue, but I did plenty of things that made it believable to you that I would ignore something like that. Silence. Perhaps that honesty touches you. Your soulmate says, I need to own that. Maybe you ask, why is your mother telling you now? Your soulmate explains the hospital, the scare, the confession, the hidden box. Perhaps you ask, is she okay? Beloved, despite everything, perhaps you still care. Your soulmate says, she's recovering. Maybe you feel relief. Then immediately anger again. Does she still have the letter? Yes. I want it. Beloved, of course. Your words. Your history. Your soulmate says, it's yours. Perhaps they arrange to return it. Not keep it as a romantic artifact. You wrote it. You decide. Then your soulmate says, she wants to speak to you. Maybe you immediately answer, no, beloved, valid. Your soulmate says, okay. No pressure. Perhaps, she promised me she would tell you herself, but that does not mean you have to speak with her before you're ready. Beloved, good. The promise is her responsibility. Access is yours. Maybe you ask, what did she promise? Your soulmate tells you. To confess. To apologize. And never again interfere secretly. Perhaps you become quiet. Then, you refuse to leave the hospital over this? Your soulmate almost laughs sadly. Yes. Why? Beloved, perhaps they answer, because every time I left a difficult conversation for later became years. There. Maybe that line stays with you. Your soulmate says, I wasn't doing that again. Perhaps you do eventually agree to hear their mother. Maybe not immediately. Several days later. Perhaps by phone. Your soulmate is not on the call. Important. Their mother does not need a witness to force your forgiveness. She calls. Her voice sounds weaker than you remember. She says your name. Perhaps you become emotional despite yourself. Then, I owe you an apology. You say nothing. She tells the entire truth. No, I only misplaced it. No, I opened your letter. I read it. I hid it. I lied when they asked if anyone came. Beloved. Perhaps hearing the words directly is different. You ask, why? She says, I was afraid. You reply, that doesn't answer why you thought you could do that. Good. Perhaps she says, it doesn't. Then, I thought loving my child meant controlling anything that might hurt them. Pause. I was wrong. Maybe you ask, did you hate me? She becomes quiet. No, perhaps that surprises you. Then, I was afraid of how much they loved you. Beloved. There. Maybe she admits, I thought if they chose you, I would lose influence. That is painful but honest. Perhaps, I didn't understand there was room for both relationships. You say, there was. I know now. Beloved. Maybe tears. She continues, I watched them become miserable afterward. You ask, and you still didn't tell them? Silence. Then, that is the part one am most ashamed of. Beloved. Because perhaps the original decision was impulsive. What came after was deliberate. Every day she could have corrected it. She did not. You ask, why keep the letter? She says, I couldn't destroy it. Maybe, part of me knew one day they needed to see it. You respond, you could have given it to them that day. Yes. No defense. Beloved, perhaps you appreciate that. Then their mother says, I don't expect you to forgive me. Good. Maybe, but I promised them I would tell you. You ask, why did they need that promise so badly? She becomes quiet. Then says, because they still love you. Beloved. Your heart reacts. Perhaps you did not expect her to say that. She continues, but they told me not to use that to pressure you. Good. Perhaps she says, they made me promise something else. What? That I would never make their relationships into family decisions again. Beloved. Maybe you almost smile. About time. Perhaps you say, keep that promise. She responds, I will. The call ends. No instant reconciliation. No magical blessing. But beloved, the truth is finally where it belongs. With you. With your soulmate. Not trapped inside a hospital confession. Days later, perhaps you meet your soulmate. They bring the original envelope. A little older. Maybe creased. Your handwriting on the front. They place it on the table. This belongs to you. Beloved. You take it. Perhaps you ask, did you read everything? Yes. More than once? Your soulmate looks embarrassed. Yes. Maybe you smile slightly. Then, what did you think? Beloved, their answer matters. Not, I realized you always loved me. No. They say, I realized you were asking me for something very reasonable, and I made it feel impossible. You look at them. What? A decision. Beloved. Perhaps your soulmate continues, you weren't demanding marriage that week. You weren't asking me to abandon my mother. You were asking me to tell you whether I wanted to keep building with you. Then, should have been able to answer.